Welcome back. The unmasking of General Michael Flynn, former acting director of National Intelligence Richard Grenell, on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday, calling moves by the Obama administration highly inappropriate. Take a listen.
We had Ron Johnson on the other day, a couple of weeks ago here on this program, and his investigation is centering on the transition of power from the Obama administration to the Trump administration. And during that transition, when Trump was fully in place, there were 125 leaks during the first 126 days of the administration.
I think that transition period is key. And it's why once Donald Trump won the election in 2016, all the way through to Inauguration Day, that period of time is when we know who is coming into the White House. We know the team like General Flynn and his team and President Trump. That's when we're supposed to have the Obama administration or the current administration begin to hand off and have a transition time. That's why we have an election in November and an inauguration in January, is for a peaceful transition of power. That was blown by the Obama administration. And I just don't think that unmasking during the transition period is appropriate, especially at the levels that they did. And we even had Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States at the time, unmasking in this transition period. And I believe it was in January when they literally were on the downslope to Trump's inauguration. This is inappropriate. I think you can make the argument for unmasking at other times, but to unmask during this transition period, to me, is another level.
This as efforts by Flynn to have his criminal charges dismissed. That goes on. Siraj, we learned last week that Lindsey Graham was granted sweeping subpoena power by the Senate Judiciary Committee. How high will he go? What do you make of all of this?
Well, as Attorney General Barr indicated that he won't open a criminal investigation into former President Barack Obama or former Vice President Joe Biden. So it could go as high up as, say, maybe the Attorney General, Eric Holder, or Loretta Lynch. I would say more Loretta Lynch, because Eric Holder wasn't in office at that time. But I will say a couple takeaways from acting DNI's Rick Grenell's interview was that, one, the overclassification of the Michael Flynn investigation sort of shows you or indicates that there may have been a cover-up within the intelligence community. And I think the next step here by John Ratcliffe, who is now the DNI, has to find out who ordered these overclassifications, and also the inappropriateness of the timing of the unmasking during the transition period sort of shows you that the Obama administration was almost trying to sow seeds of disruption that would continue to undermine the Trump presidency. And his presidency as of now is currently still recovering from that disruption.
Before we go, Shiraz, if you look at Washington, and if you have if the Democrats take the Senate, these technology companies are, broadly speaking, in terms of their employees, very progressive. They're big donors to Democratic causes and candidates. Is that something that are Democrats more likely, would a Democrat in the White House more likely crack down on these companies or not? Do they think that they would get a free pass if the Democrats are fully in power in D.C.?
That's a very good question, because it depends on which Democrats end up filling a potential Biden administration. If you have, say, Elizabeth Warren at, say, the helm of, I wouldn't say the Justice Department, but having a significant position in the cabinet, then you could see actually a big breakup of a lot of these tech companies, because she has probably been one of the leading voices, along with Senator Bernie Sanders, in sort of at least invigorating and energizing the progressive base to get tough on Amazon. And you hear, obviously, AOC in the last year taking a victory lap when Amazon abandoned its plans to build its second headquarters in New York City. So it's definitely a good possibility that Democrats will not show any favor to these tech companies as much as Republicans.
Time for the Morning Buzz. First up, replacing Confederate monuments with celebrities. Black Lives Matter protests across the country renewing calls to remove statues and monuments from the Confederacy. Some local communities looking to replace them with modern-day role models. Nashville considering honoring Dolly Parton. New Orleans could pay tribute to Britney Spears. Siraj.
I mean, Britney Spears might be a bridge too far, but I could get behind Dolly Parton. But I mean, we live in a society where there's a lot of history revisionism. People don't understand their history. When you look at how these Confederate statues sort of, they are a symbol. Obviously, America was founded on rebellion. And when you have the Confederacy sort of waging rebellion to preserve the institution of slavery, keeping those statues in place is sort of a reward to the states that fought for the Confederacy to preserve slavery. I think, obviously, tearing them down isn't going to solve the issue because all you're going to do is create more division. But if you take them down and put them in the museum so people can actually learn and understand our history, that is something that is probably better, and it will encourage people to actually learn about our history, to understand how these figures actually try to preserve something that is absolutely abhorrent. I will say one more thing, and that is, if we actually understood some of the statues that are being defaced, some of them are actually of known abolitionists. And the fact that a lot of people, say members of Black Lives Matter or Antifa, are defacing them says a lot about how much history is being taught in our country.
Zoom under pressure. The company recently bringing on a team of lobbyists as it deals with criticism from U.S. lawmakers over its ties to China. Zoom suspending, at Beijing's request, accounts related to U.S. and Hong Kong activists. The company saying those accounts now have been reinstated. Maria spoke with Senator John Kennedy about Zoom yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures.
Apparently, one pro-democracy activist was trying to honor the victims of Tiananmen Square, and his Zoom account got shut down. What's behind that, in your view?
There's a group called Humanitarian China. They opened a Zoom account like millions of other people. They were using it to organize a commemoration of the students who were killed in China at Tiananmen Square. The Communist Party of China picked up the phone, called Zoom, and said, eliminate their account. We don't want them talking about this. And Zoom did it. Now, that's not right. That's not right by the Communist Party of China or by Zoom. Zoom needs to decide whose side it is on.
Siraj, you first. What do you make of this kind of growing recognition of what Zoom is doing?
Zoom is obviously a huge problem. I mean, I use it for work, and it's obviously, I kind of cringe at the thought that the Chinese government is taking my information. But one thing that we obviously are missing is how the younger generation has been popularizing the app TikTok, which is another Chinese spy app. And so this growing use of Zoom and TikTok, and there's no really good alternatives to use because they're seeing so much good content coming from these things. That's obviously been problematic, and there needs to be at least a good solution or a market competitor to bring an alternative for Americans.
Getting back on the field, Major League Baseball, the MLB Players Union telling the league this weekend it is done negotiating and wants to know today how many games will be played this season. The demand could lead to only 50 games this season, opposed to the 82 originally proposed by Major League Baseball. This as some NBA players have expressed disinterest in moving forward with the basketball season. Concerns include plans to hold the entire season in Orlando, Florida, literally at Walt Disney World, as well as the games potentially distracting from the Black Lives Matter movement. Siraj, to you first. I will sum up Nat Candido, our beloved stage manager. I'm losing interest in baseball. What have these players done? Get back on the field.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that you could look at with at least the MLB is that if they actually have a shortened season, think of all the ticket sales they're going to lose on. It actually makes owning a team seem less encouraging and less incentivizing. And I actually would imagine there might be an owner or two in the offseason who might be looking to sell because the cost of operating a team might be too great.
Siraj, how long do you think that this is going to last, this Occupy Seattle protest, if you will?
It could last as long as the Occupy Wall Street protest, to be honest with you, and that was several months. And I feel like I should channel Mean Girls when I say, stop trying to make CHOP happen. It's Chaz. It will forever be Chaz. And I just want to say, it wouldn't have been an issue if Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkin essentially enforced the rule of law and let the police do their jobs. I mean, it only seems as if she's taking the stand because she wants to take a stand against President Trump because he weighed in on it. It just sounds like it's all playing politics, and she's ruining her credibility as a result, in spite of the fact that while she supports these protesters, all of them are asking her to resign.
Siraj, stop trying to make fetch happen. Thank you so much, Lauren. Lauren Simonetti with that. Siraj, my favorite TikTok video over the weekend, though, was a young man eating uncooked ramen, sprinkling the spice on it, and schooling Chris Cuomo about the First Amendment. It was strange, but I loved it so, and I've watched it probably 50 times.
It was a strong video, I'll give you that. I mean, the one thing that I had TikTok for a little bit that I dedicated to my, my really thick Chihuahua, Ernie, and I ended up deleting it.
What is he called? The Ern?
The Ern. That's one of his nicknames.
Yes.
And I would wake him up and bring him with me on the show, but he's still sleeping. I was just going to say, though, that because once I learned that TikTok was a Chinese spy app, I had to delete it immediately because of all the data that probably is going to them. So as popular as TikTok is, I just end up watching all the videos on Twitter.
All these influencers, I've just seen enough of them make really hideous, tone-deaf choices to promote themselves in the midst of the protest over George Floyd's murder, and women you've seen one after another, like posture and pose in the middle of what is supposed to be a movement to improve the nation or to mourn the death of George Floyd, and then they are in their gowns, like other people are videotaping them taking videos or photographs, and people have been just shut down for their idiocy. Thank goodness.
I mean, the thing is about these influencers is that they're getting called out because a lot of it is basically virtue signaling. It's pseudo-activism. Slacktivism is a better word to use because they act like they actually care, but really they're just doing it so that they don't get canceled and they continue to make those paychecks.
Good to see. Ern. Does your dog Ernie need to go on a diet?
I take him for walks every day. He's very fluffy.
Okay. You know what? I've gained about 20 pounds during lockdown. I'm just going to call myself fluffy from now on. More of Morty's with Maria right after this.